You're listening to the Small and Supercharged podcast with Ria Freeman, episode 317. So today on the Small and Supercharged podcast, we're joined by Lucy Gray. We just had a thing that I couldn't find Lucy's surname anyway, because you will know her better as Doodling Lucy. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm really excited to chat to you. I've been a keen follower for quite a long time.
Oh, thank you. No, I'm excited to be here as well. It's going to be, good.
We hope.
Yeah, no, it will be. It will be.
And actually, we're quite honoured because you spend a lot of time in much warmer places at the moment, don't you?
Yes, I'm here, there, and everywhere it feels like at the moment. So I'm currently living in Australia. I'm back in the UK, or I've been back in the UK for 3 weeks, and I fly back on Thursday. Yes, so it's been a real whirlwind. It's been a real whirlwind of a year. This will be my fifth, when I go back, it'll be my fifth long haul flight of the year, which is a bit a bit
Ooh.
ridiculous now, actually. So I think I'll be over there for a little while before I do that flight again because it's a very long time.
Yes, I've never been on a proper long haul flight, but it
Yeah,
looks brutal. Even when you go in like the lovely bit, it looks brutal.
long time. I know, and I think it's cruel that they make you walk through first class to get back to economy, and you look at
I
everyone
know.
like enjoy those beds whilst I'm sort of crouched up on a chair. But do you know what? I think once you've done it so many times, you do just sort of think, okay, I'm just gonna be sat here and then get on with it. But yeah, I'd rather not be sat in the same place for 28 hours, but you've got to do what you've got to
You
do.
absolutely have. They need to invent teleportation. Get on with that. Much
Yeah,
better.
yeah.
Right. Gosh, there's so much to talk about. Let's start with, I mean, why are you doodling Lucy? But obviously that's evident because of the amazing illustrations you do. But how did that journey start? How did you start becoming doodling Lucy?
Lucy. So I really, we need to go back quite far and take me back to maybe when I was about 14 or 15. And that was when, I mean, I've always loved art and I've always loved illustration. And my granny was an amazing artist and she taught me how to paint with watercolors. But I think from a young age, I was just doing it as a hobby. And then when it got to the point where I was doing my sort of GCSEs and A levels, I was like, no, I really want to do this. This is what I really enjoy. But it was kind of at the time where social media was just starting. So I finished school in 2012 and Instagram started in 2010. So it wasn't really a thing. And the one thing that I was told over and over and over at school was not by my art teachers, but by sort of everyone else, is that you will not be able to make a career out of art. It is not, it is a very, very hard career path to go down. And I went to do my art foundation at college, which is what you have to do, or you had to do back then before going to university. And I just didn't enjoy it. I think the whole grading system wasn't great for me. I think you can't really um, mark art. It's so subjective. It's such a subjective thing.
That
So,
is the thing, isn't it? If you walk around an art gallery and there are pieces in there worth like squillions of pounds, and you're looking like, hate
mm,
that. It doesn't
but
mean it's bad. It just means that I
yeah,
don't like it.
exactly. So I think so much of it wasn't about the creative process. It was more about the writing that you had to do alongside it and the meaning. And I was creating work that I wasn't proud of, and it didn't reflect who I was. And I was still getting quite good marks, but I was like, doesn't sit right with me and how I feel. So I was like, well, I won't do this because I just don't want to go and do it for 3 years. And I did psychology instead. And I thought, okay, well, I'll go down the traditional route of doing something more academic and
Quite a shift, isn't it? Art to
yes, yeah,
psychology.
art psychology, yeah. Very, very science-based as well. I found out that it was very different to the A level I did. And I got to university like, oh my goodness, this is really hard. So I graduated, well, yes, I graduated with a psychology degree, but whilst I was doing my final exams, I was just like, I need some sort of creative outlet because this is just so much written work and I just need that uh space. So I created an Instagram for my illustrations, which I was still doing just as a hobby. And I was going through like what can I call this Instagram page? Like illustration with Lucy or I don't know, Lucy Gray illustrations I wasn't sure about. And I think I just went doodling Lucy and I just wrote doodling Lucy and it stuck. And from there onwards, it just began to build. And I never really thought anything of it. It was just, and it wasn't a stationery or it wasn't a homeware business. It was just my drawings. And then people started saying, oh, would you do this drawing for me? Or will you do this drawing for me? You know, I'll pay you to do it. And then people kept saying, oh, you should start an Etsy. Meanwhile, I was traveling a lot. I had gone over to Sri Lanka to work in mental health hospitals over there. So
Wow.
that's kind of an extension of my degree. But yeah, so I came back from all this travel. I went and lived in Australia for a year. That was my first year. And I went and worked in a summer camp in America where I was an art cartoon teacher. So I kind of had my art there. And I came back and I was just like, oh, what should I do? And it had grown, by the time I'd come back from my travels, it had grown to the point where I had an Etsy page where I was sort of selling hand painted cards for absolutely nothing. And I look back at my prices. I can't believe I was selling them at that price. Um, yeah, so it got to that point where I was like, oh, do I continue with this and see how it goes, or do I do something else? And I had had some interviews to be nursery school teachers because I had some background in childcare and things. But I was working in a hospitality job, and they were very supportive of Doodling Lucy. They were like, you need to go and do this. But I just didn't have that confidence. I just didn't think, oh, where's that money going to come from? And like, will it work out? And I think I probably still had that voice from school saying, you're not going to make any money from this, or you're not going to be able to live off it. And then COVID happened, which I think
Hospitality was not great during COVID.
not great during COVID. And I always feel slightly guilty for this because COVID for me was the best catalyst I've ever had. So I was put on furlough. I was paid at 80% for my hospitality job, but I had all the free time. So I had, how long did we have off? I think we had about 3 months, wasn't it? Quite a long time. And I was like, what am I going to do with my time? You know, I'm being essentially paid to do nothing. And I just focused all that time on my business, and it just went from there. And it was a time where social media was huge and we were all sat at home, which it was great in the sense that it kick-started my business, but it also gave a massive false economy, or not false economy, I don't know what I'm trying to say, just a false sales. That's not how it was.
Yeah, like a false sense of security. I think a lot of people, I think COVID was so weird and it
Yes.
so weird. For many people, it was, I don't want to say positive because I know it was horrific, but
Mm,
it did make them reconsider things. It made them think
yeah.
about what matters. It gave people the opportunity to pursue different things. And in some ways, that was a huge success for
Mm,
people. And also, many online businesses did incredibly well during COVID. And there was
yeah.
this huge spike because basically people were, as you say, being paid to stay at home. They had disposable money.
Yeah.
Um,
And it wasn't going on it wasn't going on eating out or going to the cinema, and people were
no,
just buying things. So yes, I got to the point during COVID where I was like, okay, this can actually be my full-time thing. So I quit my coffee shop job in October 2020. And I've been full-time since. So it's just kind of gone from there.
really cool. Do you think going back to school and they said you can't make a career out of art? I mean, I see many examples on the internet which prove that's completely rubbish.
Mm,
Do you think they meant it in a conventional way, like you paint a portrait and you sell the
yeah.
portrait or the picture or whatever, rather than actually the commercial side of art, which is obviously what you do now with the prints, with the jumpers, with the calendars, with all the things?
Yes, I think they meant, again, it was before the idea that you could reach thousands of people from your living room, because we didn't have, like I said, we didn't have Instagram, we didn't have TikTok, we didn't have that accessibility. So, and I always think this, before the internet, how would I do my job? It would have to be through fairs and catalogs, and that would be a lot harder. And I do think they mean, and also things like, I think they meant becoming a children's illustrator. I think that is quite difficult. I think you'd probably have to move to this. Oh, I don't know. I don't know. Honestly, I've never even looked down that road because I went to do psychology and because I created my own brand. So I've never known how difficult that potentially could be, but I'm sure it is hard. Um, but yes, I think mainly it is that whole fine art, selling your art, being in a gallery kind of thing, which is just such a narrow mind of what it is to be an artist and how many opportunities there are out there, because there are thousands. You know, you don't quite realize that every single thing you pick up or look at has been designed. Yeah, I think it was just a small-minded view of it. And like I said, it was never my art teachers who said that. But again, I never actually properly spoke to my art teachers about what opportunities were around because I never thought that that's kind of where I was going.
No.
I can't even really, I wish I'd written down it because I can't even really remember what it was that I wanted to be at when I went to art school. But even by the time I got to my art foundation year, I was sick of art from my A levels. Like my A levels really were the sort of the beginning of the nail in the coffin because it was just so much writing and oh, explain why you've done this, and it just wasn't enjoyable.
No. It's a real shame, isn't it? I think sometimes there could be a whole discussion about education, which I don't know enough about, but I do hear more and more that, I mean, I remember when I was at school, which was a while ago, I had to do this stupid questionnaire about careers and
Mm.
about what I liked. And I said I liked animals. A fun fact, I'm pretty scared of birds. They
Yeah.
thought I should be a gamekeeper. Now,
Oh,
I
I'm
was
surprised
quite
people
good at
came back to
school.
say that.
It
Yeah.
was mad. I was quite good at school. I was really strong at English, good at maths, good at the sciences. But because I said I liked animals, gamekeeper, there's not a worse job for me.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'd be better doing basically anything. But
Mm.
those kind of things can be really,
Yeah, for a young person, when you hit that one, you could get me told one thing, and I think even things like in PE, I think somebody told me that I run awfully, and it just stuck with me for so long
really does.
because you're young and you're impressionable, and you'll take on all these things that they're saying, and you think, oh, this is the be all and end all, and I think at one point, and it never came into fruition or anything, I got asked to go and speak at my secondary school. And I was so eager to do it because I wanted to go in and speak to people and say, look, you can create whatever it is you want to create. We're so lucky in the sense that we have free marketing through Instagram and Facebook and TikTok and everything. So if you want to become a baker, you can do that. If you want to just, if you want to create cupcakes and wedding cakes for a living, you can do that. And it's just stuff that you're not taught at school. You're kind of told to go down this generic route of, but again, I mean, it's been 15 years since I was 15, 14 years since I've been at school, so it might have changed. I'm not sure. But again, also I want to tell people that what you choose when you're 16 or 17 is not the rest of your life. I
I
think,
was just having this conversation with somebody.
yes, and I was thinking about it last night, and it's that fear of, I think I had that fear of, oh my goodness, I'm going to go and do psychology, which means I have to go and, become a psychiatrist or a child psychiatrist or whatever I was potentially thinking of doing. But career changes are so normal and they should be encouraged if you're not happy. And yeah, I would love for more people to realize that. And I've said to lots of people, I don't necessarily think that Doodling Lucy is going to be the rest of my life. If I ever get to the point where I'm like, I really don't want to do this, I know that I can, pivot back to psychology if I want to, or go retrain.
Mhm.
But yeah, I wish more people knew that as well.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of really interesting points there. The whole limiting belief thing that
Mm,
are particularly with children, like it does get instilled in us. So you being told that you weren't very good at running,
mm,
that can actually have really significant impacts moving forward on your general like health and well-being. Because some
mm.
people, even if they're rubbish at running, I'm not saying you are, I've never seen you run, you could be amazing. Um, they don't have to be great at it to enjoy it. Uh,
No,
to get part of the Couch to 5K, or I've got friends who've got like go running with a running club, and there's the kind of social aspect and the real life enhancing aspect there, or being told you can't do something, and that just then it is removed from your head as a possibility.
I think it really plays into art as well because, and this is what I always say to people whenever I say I'm an illustrator or an artist, they will say, "Oh, I can't draw, I can't draw," and I want to be like, give me a child. There is not that many children who don't like to sit down and create something. It could
No.
be whatever it is, but we're told somewhere along that line, you're either told that you're good or you're bad. But again, art is so subjective. So who's to say that the stick men that you're drawing are any better than the amazing, I don't know, fine artist who's done a completely lifelike drawing, and it all is subjective. So yeah, I always say that to people. I say, well, who's told you that you're bad? Someone has told you that you're bad somewhere along the way, and that's made you stop doing it. But it must be, I don't know what age it sort of starts to kick in. Maybe 8 or 9, you start to learn whether you're good or bad at art, which is just, it's not a thing. I don't think that is a thing as long as you're creating.
And then you think about people like it's Tracy Emin that did the Unmade Bed, and Damien Hirst that puts the animals in formaldehyde.
Yeah.
Like that, to me, that doesn't really feel like art in the conventional sense, but these are very, very wealthy artists that do
Mm.
incredible things that inspire people. And
It gets people talking, which is what art's
yeah,
all about. Yeah.
so yeah, how dare people say? But I think, yeah, it does get to that point where you feel quite self-conscious. It's like if you write something, if you write a poem and you sort of give it to someone and they laugh at it, or you draw something and they go, "What's that?" And instantly you're like, well, "I'm never showing anyone my work ever again."
Yeah. Yeah. It's such a shame.
It is. It is such a shame. So, sorry, going back. So you, what point or what happened to make you think, right, this is my full-time job? Was it literally the income? Was it the thinking about what you could do with what you create, or what was it?
I think it was the point where I was turning down work to be at the hospitality job. And I always knew that I wasn't going to be in hospitality forever. And so many people who I was working with were saying, you've got to give this up now. You've got to go and do it yourself and just see how you get on. And if it doesn't work, you can always come back. And it was just the excitement of 2020 and 2021 and thinking, okay, let's just go and do this. Um, and yeah, I just went for it. I just thought, okay, well, let's just do this and see where I end up.
And what point did you think this is really a business now?
I think probably when I moved out of my parents' house and I was living on my own and I was paying my own rent and I was able to still go on holiday and do everything that I wanted to do from the business. That was the real moment where I was like, actually, no, this is my career at the moment. And when people would ask me, because I always used to say, I think before COVID, I was down to sort of I was doing 2 days a week my own thing and 3 days a week working in the coffee shop. And I still would say that I was a barista rather than an illustrator. And it was when I was able to introduce myself and say I run my own business. And I still get such a kick from that. It's still such a pinch me moment when I say, when people ask me what I do, I'm like, oh, I'm an illustrator and I have my own stationery and homeware business. It always is such a mouthful when people ask me what I do because I think again when I say I'm an illustrator, they immediately think I'm a children's book
Like a
illustrator.
book illustrator,
Yeah,
yeah.
book illustrator, and I have to say, oh no, I have my own sort of brand, but within that, I do everything in it as well. I do all the marketing and I do all the photography and I do all the, copywriting and everything else. So I am an illustrator, but also it's not, I don't know how much of the business is actually illustrating, probably like 25% of it. It's just not that much.
And a lot is marketing, isn't it? It's all of those elements that are woven
Yeah.
in. So I think it's mad that they don't teach people marketing at school because although it sounds, yeah, so much of what we do now is marketing, whether you've got a personal brand on Instagram, whether you're wanting to grow a side hustle, whether you want to run your own business. Actually, if you
Mm,
don't understand the basic fundamentals of marketing, you're not going to do
yeah.
particularly well.
As I always say, well, and my dad says as well, you don't sell the sausage, you sell the sizzle. So it's not the product, it is how you create this brand and how you create the story behind it. Because my market is so saturated, there are so many other cards and stationery and homeware businesses, and there are so many countryside ones, which is what my sort of niche is, but it's how you market it which makes a difference
Mm.
because you do see so many of these businesses pop up and drop again because people realize it's not just creating a good product, it is the marketing behind it. And I always think of this with huge brands like Calvin Klein, essentially just a grey crop top with the words Calvin Klein on, which you can get exactly the same in Asda, but without the words Calvin Klein. But their marketing is so good that they can whack up the price because when you put it on, you feel like, I don't know, they've made you think that you'll be as great as Kendall Jenner or whatever, whoever's modeling it. But yeah, so I think marketing, and again, which is why when people say to me, "Oh, like you haven't used your degree, have you?" With psychology thinking going straight to, and I'm like, "No, I have," because so
Yeah.
much of purchasing and customer relations and things is psychology, it's through the human interaction and the human brain.
Yeah, so much is transferable. People don't necessarily
Yeah.
think it, but if you know the subject, you can see how transferable it is.
Oh yeah. And yeah, people always just assume with psychology that the classic is like, oh, you don't want to read my mind. And I'm like, oh my goodness, psychology is not. There are so many branches of psychology. It is not psychiatry or being able to read someone's mind. You know, it goes into so many things, and marketing being one of them. It
Mm.
is. And I think once you, yeah, like you said with the transferable, I see so many psychological techniques in adverts and things, and which, the average Joe probably wouldn't notice. But because I've studied it, I can see, oh, they're doing that or they're doing that. So,
Very cool. So you obviously you went down the illustration route. At what point did you start to go down more down the stationery or down the homeware route? Which one came first, and why did you opt
um,
for that?
so I think I was really struggling with commissions, and because well, I've always done cards. I've always hand painted cards. So they were I was selling those at the beginning anyway, but I was also doing a lot of commissions for people who were asking, can you please paint this? Can you please paint that? And I had a couple of commissions which I said yes to, but I really shouldn't have done because I was like, this is not what I want to be doing. This is what I'm painting, this subject matter which I don't want to paint. And I was also I quickly realized that I really struggled with pet portraits and things because I had a lot of people asking for pet portraits, but pets to people are such a huge thing. And I was like, if I don't get this right, it's going to be not, I'm going to feel awful. So I just, yeah, expanded the stationery and I learned how to get my work onto the computer, digitize it, and get it sent off to the printers. And I thought, actually, financially, being able to do that is so much quicker that you can get so many more sales from it. Yes, you are having to sell a lot more to get the money back, but
It's scalable though, isn't it? The
it's
one-to-one
saleable.
model is a
Yeah,
nightmare for scalability.
yeah, you can't, it's so much time, it's your time. And I much preferred creating a product and seeing whether people bought it than people buying a product and seeing whether people liked it. Like that was really stressful for me. And the homeware sides, that I can't remember technically the first. I got a grant from my local council for businesses that had been affected by COVID. And before COVID, I was doing weddings as well, wedding stationery. So I put it to them that I hadn't been able to do any of my wedding stationery, and they said, okay, we can help you. In what way do you want to be helped? And I put forward my mugs, which are so expensive. People don't realize how expensive mugs. If you want to create a mug in the UK in a smaller scale, I think I got 150 done. They are so expensive. So they gave me a grant for that. And I think that just made me decide, oh no, I want to do more homewares as well. And because there is a bigger margin on homewares, I was like, okay, well I can do those and have that as my higher price point
Mm.
product. But again, it's all cash flow because they're so expensive to buy, and you have to buy within the hundreds, 200s. You can't just buy small batches, which is it's just such a juggle getting it all together.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. Again, the whole kind of Instagram versus reality, the perception versus the reality of a situation. You see people adding more and more products and, oh my God, they're like winning at life. And they like you are, obviously you're expanding and you're growing, it's really cool. But there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes of the
Oh,
juggling, the stress. Is it going to sell or have I just got a really expensive load of stuff in my spare room?
I know so much of my money is tied up in stock, and I think I put it out to Instagram, how much would you spend on a mug? And I had so many come back like £8, and I was at the time buying them in, they were £11 each. And now I went and had another quote from the same company, and I think they're up to £14 each. And you just think to be able to make any profit on that after you've bought the packaging, because you have to buy special packaging for mugs to make sure that they don't break and add postage and all of that, you have to sell them at about £25, which for a lot of people is £25 on a mug. That is so expensive. But then you want to be like, okay, well, you're having it from a small business. It's being made all in the UK, and that is properly made because unfortunately, so many businesses say finished, hand finished in the UK. So they're made somewhere else and then they're painting or whatever gets put on it in the UK, so they can say hand finished in the UK, but they can't say made. Um, so all these different things, and I was just a bit disheartened because, well, not disheartened because I think probably before I started doing it myself, I'd be like £25 for a mug, but
Yeah. People are used to also like going to, I want to say Sainsbury's, Tesco, the
but they are like
supermarkets
three
are
or four
available.
pounds. Yeah,
And you
yeah,
can get them for a few quid and they're nice, like they do the job.
yeah, yeah.
But then they come from, obviously, I don't know the supply chain of any supermarkets for the record, but they come from a different country in a
Yeah.
huge volume. So, of course, they're cheaper because they
Yeah,
are.
because they are. And I think that is where the marketing and the storytelling and everything else comes into it. Because if you can then say, well, look, this is all the hours that I've put into this mug. These are the paintings that I've taken, hand drawn, and this is a story behind it. And you create something which is really special and it's not just a mug. People then want to buy into that and think, no, actually, I really like this and I like what the business is standing for, and everything else in between. So going back to marketing and how important that is, it is so important to really market your product well
Mm,
and yeah, not just say it's a mug made by me. It's so much more than that.
no, definitely. Now, one of the things I see you working on Instagram is your native breeds. You're doing them all, aren't you? Doing all the native breeds.
Project, yes. I
I've
kind of
got two sheep now, and I'm well into this until you do them.
yeah, so I this year's calendar. So each year I do an illustrated calendar even, and I put it to my followers on Instagram. What do you want to see? And the one which came out the highest was native breeds. So I was researching them, and then I found the endangered list basically of. I think it's just over 140 British native breeds that are endangered.
It's crazy, isn't it? When I saw you say that, I thought, no. And I went and looked, and I thought, oh my God, that's
There's so
mad.
many, and I think I want to know what the total breeds are because they're only the endangered ones. I haven't counted all of them, so I was like, oh great, I'll illustrate them all, which I just really didn't think, and I've committed to the project. The project is currently on pause whilst I do Christmas and the calendar, but yes, so I'm illustrating each one individually and giving people a little bit of information about each one, and they're going on sale, and then £1 from each of the sales heads towards the charity. I'm trying to raise £1,000 for them at the moment via the sale of that and the calendar. So I think it's to begin with, I wanted to do it all in one block, but actually it's going to be a project that I dip in and out of because, like I said, 140 is so many. I think I'm on. Oh, I don't even know if I've hit 25 yet. I must have hit
Oh,
25.
wow. They are amazing. Like I have been looking at them and they are lovely. But I
Yeah,
can imagine, yeah, I have these kind of thoughts. I'm like, that would be easy. I mean, not illustration because I'm not gifted at that. But you can, yeah, that'd be easy. Then you get halfway through and you're like, what were they thinking?
it's
What
just
possessed
I've
me?
committed now, yeah. So it will get finished. I don't know what year it'll get finished. I think probably next year, hopefully, it'll all be done. But yeah, it will just have to be something that I sort of dip in and out of. I have already donated the money to the charity because I thought if I just get that money out of the way, then at least this can just be the project that I do. And
Yeah,
whether people buy it or not, it doesn't matter because I've already donated the money and I've
yeah.
sort of given it to them already. So yeah, but it's been really interesting. It's been, the research behind it, it's been really interesting. And I think that is so important as well because I want to make sure that my business is still making me learn and making me, test my mind and things. And it's not just me there sat there painting and things, which is it's great for mindfulness because it's such a, head clearing space, but also I'm still, I miss learning and that kind of the academic side of things.
Do you find it tricky? Because you said you live in Australia at the moment, and obviously a lot of your audience, like the British native
Mm,
breeds, a lot of your audience is, and what you do is connected with the British countryside, isn't it? Do you find it quite difficult to be not just in a different country, but quite literally the other side of the world,
yeah.
and creating this, oh, and running a business?
Yes. So it's definitely been a challenge. It's definitely been yeah, I didn't expect it to be easy. And my model before January, I made the decision to move over in June last year, and I knew that I had to change my business model because I was still packing all the products.
Wow.
Now, yeah, I was still doing all the packaging, which just takes hours and hours and hours. So I then found a small fulfillment. I'm guessing it's not really a centre. It's based on a farm, which is why it just worked so perfectly for me. Based on a farm in Suffolk, it's family run, and they hold all my stock. They send out everything for me. So I knew that it would still be able to run whilst I was in Australia. But the main thing was, will I still be able, like you said, will I still be able to connect with the British countryside? And the short answer is yes. But long term, I don't think I can. And I think I have, well, my visa is only 1 year and I can extend it to 2 years. And at the moment, and where I am at the moment, I think it will be that I come back within the first, not within, after the first year, because for so many different reasons, personal reasons as well. But I think the brand needs me to be in the UK, needs me to be surrounded by the British countryside. For a year, I think I'm absolutely fine. I've got so much backlogged. People, first of all, my customers are understanding. Second of all, I've got so much backlogged content that I can use. And third of all, I'm using this year as almost like a sabbatical in a sense. I'd say that I'm running at about 70% in comparison to the 100% that I would be normally. And I was just messaging my friend and saying, actually, it's really nice not to have to think, oh my goodness, I've got all these Christmas fairs coming up, because I'm not doing any Christmas fairs this year. I'm just having a break from those. And I got a part-time hospitality job whilst I was in Australia just to get out and meet people. So I've got some income coming from that. And that just took the stress of, will I be able to do this? Um, and going back again to the whole COVID and creating not false sales, but it's just so many business look back on that sales period, which is my first year. So I think people, it's not a normal year to compare to. So the following years, the 2022, 3, and 4, which I've had so far, and not the same as COVID because it's not a normal year. For a year, it's fine. I don't think long term it would be. I think if I was to stay there long term, I'd have to change the business, and I don't want to. I'm still, I still absolutely love what Doodling Lucy is about. But I think it's just important if you have something like this where you think, oh, I want to go and do a year somewhere, or I want to go and live in Australia. If you have anything like that, you need to do it and just try it out, because otherwise you'll always be wondering it. And I do have moments where I'm like, oh, this is stunting my growth. But at the same time, you then go on and think, well, why am I trying to grow this business? What am I doing? And the whole point is that you're doing that to be able to live the life that you want. So I'm like, why am I not living the life I want now and not worrying about the growth?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, have you noticed, if you were kind of plotting, let's have the COVID year as an anomaly, if you were plotting the other points on a graph, have you felt like going to Australia has, I'm doing a
Yeah,
downward signal? No, that's really
no, I
good.
don't think so. Yeah, no, I don't think it stunted my sales at all. I definitely haven't, like I said, I've been running at 70%. So I've been running it at sort of 70%. So I'd say that matches the sales. It's how I imagined it. But again, I think a lot of people don't often realize that I'm there. I think, I've said it enough times. I've said it enough times that people, if they really wanted to dig in, will know them in Australia. But I still put all my stuff up at 7 a.m. I still talk about the British countryside, the products, as I'm still doing all the products that people are keen to see. Um, so yeah, I don't think sometimes I think people don't realize they're there. And I've had a few, when I said I was coming home, I've had a few people saying, well, I didn't even realize you'd gone. So unless I've got another Instagram, which is my travel page, because I wanted to separate the two. Unless you follow me on both, I don't think that you would know that I was in Australia. I tend not to do any pictures of me on the beach and things, because I was like, that's just confusing for people, because I'd be like, here's cozy country Christmas, and then here's me also on the beach. So
And also, when I'm just, I know you're in the UK now. Like, this isn't the weather you want to see someone living their best life on a sunny beach. I'm looking
no,
around thinking how
exactly.
cold
Yeah.
and miserable I am.
Yeah, exactly. And that comes into the whole marketing and the story and everything behind it. And I had a few people question why I separated, because I used to put a lot of my personal stuff on my business as well, because I felt like that helped create the brand story. But now that it's so separated, I keep them. The travel page is all about, my life in Australia and dealing with my life in Australia, and Doodling Lucy is my business. Um, and when I come back, I will maybe put some more of my personal life, or put more pictures of me in the countryside and talk about, the influences it has on me. But for now, it's absolutely fine, separate, and yeah, I don't see much of a change in sales.
I think there's a good lesson there as well, because sometimes we feel like we have our own businesses, so we can have freedom, so we can do what we want, and then we get sort of tied into it. And although
Mm,
it is kind of freedom, it's also like a ball and chain around your neck.
mm.
Uh, and you think, oh, I can't do this and I can't do this. But obviously, what you took from that is, well, what are the issues I've got? If I want to be living on the other side of the world, surfing, sunbathing, living my best life, what is the fundamental what are the fundamental aspects of my business that I have to be in the UK for?
Mm.
Okay, what can I do so I don't have to do that job?
Yeah, yeah.
Because obviously social media you can run anywhere, marketing you can do anywhere. It's just with you, it's the physical product, isn't it?
Yes, it's just a physical product. So again, I've accepted the fact. Initially, I thought that I could create new products via designing them, getting them sent to my parents, and my parents sending them out to Australia. That is just such a long-winded way of doing things. And because I've kind of decided that I'm not going to be there long term, I've just said, okay, we're not going to do any product development whilst I'm over there. It will just be creating products that I've already done, but maybe in different designs, or maybe not even that I don't design necessarily. The native breeds is original artwork, so that's not creating a new product. So I haven't done any of that. What other things can I not do? Photography, that is a lot harder. I've only done one photo shoot, which was a summer photo shoot over there, so that was fine. But I've done all my Christmas photo shoots here whilst I've been back.
Kangaroo in the background.
Yeah, you
I
can't.
know it's such a generalization.
No, but yeah, Christmas is going to be so weird. It's going to be hot and sunny, and you just wouldn't do that because your customers won't relate to it. And things like just getting your head around the time difference. So if I'm doing a Zoom call or emails or whatever, I schedule it to make sure that it's at the right time. So I'm constant, and they've just their clocks went forward at a different time to our clocks going back. So our clocks haven't gone back yet, have they?
No.
But they've already gone forward. So the time changes quite a lot. But yeah, it's just getting your head around that and things. So I think people just have to realize that you will see a difference in sales in the sense that because you're not able to put 100% into it, but that's the risk, not the risk, but that's kind of why not why you're going, but you expect it. And
Mm.
then I'm out doing hospitality work, which just makes up for it. Which
Yeah.
again, it's been quite a nice break. Yeah, it's been a nice break, and for creative minds especially, you need that break. My calendar, the calendar that I've created, is my best yet because I've had that freedom of, okay, actually I can go back and do some hospitality work and make some money from there. It's kind of like this huge full circle that I've built my business up, that I first quit my hospitality job to be able to build the business, and now I've built the business up so much and it's kind of running on its own that I can go back to hospitality and create some more money that way and have that human interaction which you don't get from working on your own.
No, completely.
Mm.
Thinking about your whole business journey to date, we're going to do lows and highs in that
Mm.
order deliberately, because I don't like to not leave people on a low, but lows are hard. What's been the low along your journey so far?
I've had a few fairs that have just not, a few fairs and a few product launches which have just not done well. And I've made a loss at, and yeah, they just aren't it's been a product that I really love, and it's always the products that I really love that don't do well, and the products that I'm not that sure on that do really well. You can't predict it. But I genuinely think that it hasn't been that many lows because I do just have this sort of this strange mentality, not strange, but this mentality that it will just work out, that I'll just have to make it work out somehow.
I think
So
that's really good. I think that's
yeah,
good. You see the opportunity, not the
yes,
ugh.
well, what else am I going to be doing? I have to make this work somehow. Even if it's going back to opening my commissions, which I know will create money, or I don't know. I've got all these sort of backup plans in case that the products don't do well, which I've never actually really dipped into. But I also have another friend who runs a small business, and she and I both have this mentality, well, it just has to do well, and if it doesn't, we're gonna make it something else of it. Like I don't know what it would be. But yeah, so there haven't off the top of my head been that many lows. I
That's
don't
okay.
think.
That's good. That's okay.
Yeah.
But I think your mindset and the way you approach it is a huge part of that. Because for some people, they just said, I launched a product and it was a complete flop. It was
Mm,
awful. I didn't know what to do with myself. Whereas I think mindset, obviously, you know a lot more about this being having done the psychology, but it's so important. It's so important to a business's success or failure. The product, the service is one part of it, but actually you could have the best product or service in the world. But if you don't believe in it, that actually
mm,
affects your marketing. And if
mm,
you don't market it well, it doesn't do well. And if you have a knock, you see it as a fatal rather
mm.
than a kind of a bump in the road.
Yeah, and I think that's where I sort of sit on when it comes to how saturated the market is. I was like, so many people get to a certain point, realize that it's not easy and drop off and think, do you know what, actually, I'm just going to go back to the corporate world because I'll get paid. There are pros and cons to both things. Running your own business is great, but you're not guaranteed that check at the end of the month. Whereas if you go back to work, you can well, not all jobs, but you can leave it at 5 o'clock, come home and be paid. Whereas as everyone who runs a small business is aware, you never ever leave your job anyway. It's always with you. But yeah, I just kind of carried that with me that somebody has, it has to work for somebody because people are doing it, and that somebody is going to be me. And going back to the whole Calvin Klein thing and the fact that they're literally selling plain bralettes or pants and they're making millions from it, it just shows you can market anything. You've just got to make sure you're marketing it right.
There's
Um,
another example of that. I think Tiffany do a paperclip, which
mm,
is a lot of money.
yeah,
And you kind of think if Tiffany can sell a paperclip for that,
yeah,
I can make my business work.
yeah, yeah. You've just got to get it to the right market and market it well, and it can just go crazy. Yeah. So
So flipping it round, what's been the high along your journey so far?
I think it still has to be, well, I think one of them was the game fair and seeing my business in a big fair and being alongside other big businesses and thinking, oh, okay, like I'm now a part of these. There's probably three. One of that, having been approached for magazines and seeing your product in print or in shops. That's also another high whenever you go, and when I go into a shop that stocks me, and I'm like, oh yes, there's my work. But I think the main thing is just when I meet new people and they get to ask me, what do you do? And it's just being able to tell people what I do. And it's that pride that I have in my work, and how much I enjoy it. And I can tell people how much I enjoy it, and that it's got core values that I'm really passionate about, and even if it's something which is not making loads and loads of money, which I'm not, but it's still being able to say that, and I say that, I'm doing something that I absolutely love. So
Really
yeah,
cool.
the high.
What's coming next for Doodling Lucy? Or, I mean, Lucy as a person
Yeah,
is heading back to Australia, but
yeah,
not for
yeah.
long.
Not for long. Well, so I fly on Thursday, and then it'll just be Christmas marketing. I've created all my Christmas products, so I'm going to be going full force with my Christmas marketing, and then probably not slowing down for the next 6 months, but yeah, I guess slowing down for 6 months. I really want to enjoy my time in Australia. Post Christmas, it's always a bit crazy because you have Christmas sales, Valentine's, and Mother's Day. Um, it's not going to be brand new products like I would do each year. It might just be a couple of new cards for each thing, and then just slow it down. My visa ends on the 4th of July, which is March until October, my quiet period. So I'm just going to, yeah, live in Australia, have that 6 months as, my 6 months, just paint for the sake of painting, see what collections come from it. I won't necessarily be marketing them, and really work out what kind of new products I want to do, and just go back to that really fun part, which I had at the very beginning because I had the hospitality job, because I had that money coming in. I could create all the crazy products. And I think somewhere along the middle, I did get lost in the sense of I need to make products which are going to make money. And I was creating products that weren't necessarily what I wanted to see, but I knew that they would sell. So I want to just take the next 6 months as my time. Like Doodling Lucy is not going anywhere. All the products will still be there and I'll still be marketing them, but there won't be anything brand new. There won't be any new products or anything. It'll just be how it is. And taking that time, because I think actually sometimes you do just need to step back and look at it from a different perspective, which I'm actually really looking forward to, because I have so many designs that I want to explore, but I need to have that time, and having this second job. And they pay, honestly, hospitality in Australia is just, you get paid so much.
That
So
helps. It takes the pressure off. So you can
yeah,
have that time to be really creative and just
yeah,
play with things that you don't have any. I mean, if they become saleable products, awesome, but that's not the objective of the
no,
of it at all.
no, it's not the objective. And to do things like the Native Project, and there's such a huge long list of things I'd love to do, like really learn how to use Pinterest, because I've never learned how to use Pinterest as a business, and get back into writing blogs and things, but also just enjoying Australian life. And then from July onwards, we'll just see. At the moment, I'm saying that I imagine myself to be back in the UK. Don't know where I'll be living in the UK, so I have to decide. But yeah, that's sort of the rough plan. But I haven't booked flights back or anything, so it could be earlier, it could be later. I'm not sure, but it's all exciting in the sense it's very daunting in the sense that I have no idea, but it's also very exciting in the sense that it could be anything.
Completely. Before I let you go, is there any advice you'd give to people who have been in your situation from lots of different points of views, really, whether it is not being able to make a living out of something that you love, about wanting to travel, but worrying about your business, about marketing your business, about entering a saturated market? Is there any that your own words, like I think there's always space for people who do a job well, just for the record. But I would really love your advice on any of those, anything that you feel kind of drawn to.
I think so. The first one, which is when you're sort of at the stage where you're still working your full-time job and it's your side hustle, and that is just to keep pushing on, because there will just be this moment. And I was very lucky in the sense that my moment was COVID, because that's a huge moment. And to have belief in yourself and to say, start talking to people about it. So rather, when I was saying that I really struggled to tell people that I was an illustrator rather than a barista, because it didn't feel real. But it is real. So I think, but when I started telling people that I was an illustrator, people then started getting interested and saying, oh, will you do this painting for me? Will you do this painting for me? And it just kind of snowballed. So have that faith in yourself and have that confidence and start telling people about what you're doing, because word of mouth is such a huge thing. And the travel side, you only get one life, and you've got to think, why am I doing this business? Am I doing this business to make so much money that I can live my life? Or am I doing it to be able to live the life that I want? And one of that is being able to, pause your business and go traveling. And I think the fear is that it won't be there when you get back, but it will be. The customers will be there, and a year or however long you're thinking of going is really not long at all. And it would take a couple of months to build the sort of brand back up and to get the awareness back out there in the algorithm to like you again. But it's always going to be there. It's not going anywhere. So yeah, you really do only get one life, and it's worth doing. You can do your business for the rest of your life, but you can't have that privilege to travel, or you never know where life is going to take you. So definitely go and do that. Like 100% go and do that. I would always say do that.
I love that. Is there anything else you'd like to share before I ask you all the places where people can find you online?
I don't think so. Maybe I should end with one of my core values, which is carry on back British farming.
Too right. Don't the farmers need our support more than
Yeah,
ever?
they really, really do. So yeah, that's my parting words.
And they're good ones. They're very good ones. So there's some awesome, awesome Instagram accounts around British farming. I follow, she was on the podcast not very long ago, Farmer in Training.
Mhm.
Amazing lady, complete force of nature. Oh gosh, who else do I follow? The Red Shepherdess is incredible.
Yeah,
Um, oh gosh,
I know
Steph
you can't think of them off the top of your head, but there are so many, aren't there?
Bennett's Farm. They've got lots of the diversity side, but Yeah, I completely agree with you. And I would definitely urge people to follow some of these really good accounts because you do get to see what goes on behind the scenes. You get to see the graft, the pressure, so many things that you don't think about. And I think actually Clarkson's farm has been really, really good for
Oh,
farming,
amazing. Yeah, so good. It's really shown the true side of farming.
which is so important because you don't think of it. Like you
No.
just don't. If you don't, I mean, I'm lucky where we are. We're surrounded by. We've got a lovely farmer who basically helps me out of all my life woes. He brings me hay for. I mean, I do give him money, but like he brings my hay, he does my hedges. Is awesome. But if you
Yeah, if
don't
you live
live,
in the city, you wouldn't know.
no,
No,
you
you wouldn't.
wouldn't. You
No, so
wouldn't.
you need these people to highlight it. So yeah, no, they're all doing great.
Couldn't agree more. Tell us everywhere we can find you online.
Doodlinglucy.com, where you can go and buy my products and see all my artwork. And then you can find my business at Doodling Lucy 5. Unfortunately, somebody else had the handle at Doodling Lucy, so we have got my lucky number at the end, which is the 5. And if you want to follow along with my travels as well, that is at Lucy Far From Home.
Amazing. Thank you so, so much for joining us today. I've loved our chat.
No, thank you for having me.